excited to be here with Pamela Garfield-Jaeger. She's one of the folks that we hear stories about who stood up in the face of the nonsense that we've got going on in our culture today. She said enough is enough, and she fought back. So would you tell our viewers a little bit about who you are, why you're here today, and what had you get in the fight?
Sure. So I'm a licensed clinical social worker. I've been in the profession for over 20 years. And I've worked with families, I've worked in schools, I've worked in hospitals, I've worked in group homes. I'm specialized in families and teens. And I was actually off for several years because I had a disability. And then I came back in 2021.
Oh, gosh.
Basically, my profession went crazy. And so I call myself Rip Van Therapist because it's like I went to sleep. I went out in 2017, came back in 2021, and then everything was so crazy. But I was so grateful to be back in the profession, just part-time, because I still have chronic pain, that I was happy to be there. But unfortunately, because of the vaccine mandates in California, I was no longer allowed to work at my job. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot there. So you have a really interesting story, Pamela, because before we started rolling, you and I were talking about the psychotherapy profession and how, I have a therapist. He's awesome. He's kind of like a cross between like a drill sergeant and an AA sponsor,
You're lucky.
which is what I need, which is what people need, I think. And before him, the guy I saw got into an argument about politics with me. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what it's like in your profession where you're really the minority in the way that you think.
Yeah, so it's been really hard because our therapist has been my profession has been co-opted by ideology. And people are talking a lot about gender ideology, which is one of the most egregious things that's happening. But really, big picture, it's everything. Because therapists are now affirming everything. They're now in a situation where they really more want to be liked, and they're not looking to actually help someone address their real issues. Therapy is about addressing underlying issues. It's about helping someone take personal responsibility for their life. That's what therapy has always been. Even
oh my gosh,
yes.
I'm so sorry for interrupting, Pamela.
ahead.
I just what you said was so powerful there, because I remember, this is a little bit emotional. I don't know if it's okay to talk about this
Sure.
here at AmFest, but I remember I was a victim of sexual assault. And one of the things about therapy was gaining my personal agency back.
That's it.
Right? And it wasn't about, I didn't have to accept that it was my fault I had been sexually assaulted, right? It wasn't like it made it okay that somebody hurt me, but I definitely was out drunk and I was not keeping myself safe.
Right.
And there was something about accepting that responsibility that really gave me agency and power back.
Yes.
And it's almost like they're robbing people of that.
They're reinforcing victim mentality. That's what you're saying. And we know about that in critical race theory, we know about that in queer theory, but that's happening across the board. People who are just having problems, they're saying, well, that's okay, I'll affirm you with these problems, instead of addressing the underlying issues and helping someone recognize and make better choices for themselves, despite the terrible things that happen to them. Yes, we are all victims of things that happen to them or to us, but that doesn't mean we need to live as victims. And that's what therapy has always been about.
Yes.
And that has shifted.
Yes, I love that. It's like our identity can be about the victimization, or it can be about the overcoming.
Exactly.
And you get to choose.
Yeah.
You get to really choose that. And so are you still practicing today, or do you have a limited practice? How are you kind of staying in the field and making a difference?
So, unfortunately, because I have chronic pain, I can't work a full-time job. I can't work a regular job. I finally found a job I could work at, which was doing group therapy, filling in as a per diem in a hospital program. And they took me out because of the mandates. So what I decided to do when they took me out was I was going to become an educator, and I was going to become a voice, because I'm no longer captured by the ideology that my colleagues are.
Yes.
And there are other people that agree with me, but they're very heavily silenced.
You're too afraid, yeah.
So I realized I was going to be a voice, and I am active on Instagram, I'm active on Twitter to embolden other therapists to speak out, and I've actually written a parent's guide to mental health.
Oh.
To help parents, because specifically I have a lot of experience working with teens and families, so I've written a guide to help parents understand what is appropriate therapy and what is indoctrinating therapy.
Okay, so tell everybody the name of your book again.
Okay, it's online. It's called thetruthfultherapist.org.
Okay, so go to thetruthfultherapist.org.
Yes.
That's where they can find your information.
Yes, it's a subscription for $5 a month, and I've basically taken all of my knowledge over 20 years of experience. I was educated even at New York University, which is pretty liberal, but still, all of my experience I've brought into writing a guide for parents so that you know what to expect, and so that you don't get gaslit by therapists in the system to tell you this is what you have to do. If they threaten you that your child will kill themselves if you don't follow their direction.
Oh my gosh.
I have written exactly a guide on how to know how to screen for
deal with
stuff,
that.
how to deal with it, things to say, a little bit how to use the language against them, how to ask them specifically for studies, just to embolden parents.
Yeah.
To embolden parents to be able to fight back and to be able to find appropriate therapists.
I love it. Okay, so
there are good ones out there.
okay,
There are.
so you got the website. What about social media? Where do they find you on all the socials?
So yeah, I'm active on Instagram as @the.truthfultherapist.
Okay.
And
The
I'm
Truthful Therapist.
The Truthful Therapist with a period in between.
Okay.
And I am on Twitter as redpilledLCSW.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you.
And good luck having fun around here
Thank
today.
you. Thank
All
you
right.
so much.
Bye.